All right, let's get started. This is JTAI's kind of feature release. This webinar is going to focus on some of the items that we have developed over the last 2 quarters. I think if you were on our January webinar, you would have seen a whole lot of features, but we've been busy and we've kind of advanced the software pretty far in the last 90 days. And so we wanted to share that with you guys. For those of you that haven't seen any of our other webinars, I'm going to kind of run through what we're going to cover. First, we're going to kind of give a high-level view of what JTAI as a SaaS platform is, where the inception was, why we developed it, and some of the mission-aligned reasons that it makes it important for what we're doing today. Then we're going to get into why we're using some of the foundational models we've chosen and how those kind of play into how features work, maybe some of the ethics behind that. And then we're going to get into some of our new features. So the big one is new agents. These are forward-facing agents that you can create and allow people that visit your websites or community members to interact with. They do a variety of things like document generation, miniature pre-screen intake, assistance, things like that. Then we have collaborative hubs, so you can share data sources and then share them with other organizations to participate with their knowledge bases. We have community hubs. And then we've integrated QA monitoring. So it allows you to monitor how the AI is interacting with chats, and it'll allow you to review confidence scoring as far as, is the AI providing legal advice? Is it staying in scope? And then that lets you go back and tweak your system prompts. And we'll get into all the demos on this, so you're not lost, because this is a lot of information. Then lastly, we'll get into document creation and editing. We have a couple of agents, and then we have an actual chat feature that lets you just upload documents, and then it'll generate responses and PDF files and stuff like that. And then we'll just open it up to Q&A. We're happy to answer questions. And if you are wondering about anything or want us to recover something or go back and show you something, we're happy to do that in this call. And we can maybe run a little bit past the hour mark if everybody wants to stay on. So I'm going to get right into it. So JTAI came about 9 months ago. It was based out of the request from multiple organizations that they had a large document archive and they didn't know how to get that into the hands of their community members and how AI could be leveraged to do that. So we started out with knowledge base hubs, and these hubs kind of blossomed into a lot of different things, allowing users to interact with their documents and ask questions through AI, and then also have a traditional layout. And through that, it became an enterprise software that was deployed on their cloud, on these 3 pilots clouds. And then we were kind of thinking, well, this would be actually really valuable if we had this as a true SaaS platform where you could come to the website. I'm going to bring that up for you. You can come to the website, log in, sign up for your free trial, see how it works. And then we would handle, Just Tech would handle all of the compliance, security, token management, updates, software and stuff. So you're not having to do that all within your own environments. That was a big hurdle. We'd made that decision back in Q4 of 2025, and it's been kind of a rapid race to get to the point where this is a fully functional SaaS software where you can just come in and use it. You don't have to have staff on hand to support it. We do that for you. So looking at JTAI as a whole, there's really 3 pillars. The first pillar is knowledge management. If you have a large document archive of data, it accommodates that very well. And I'll get into how you create hubs and how you can create hubs attached to your SharePoint, Google Drive, or just upload documents. Then we have chat intelligence. So this is interacting with AI in a chat format similar to OpenAI or Claude, or ChatGPT or Claude. And it does various things for you. It'll analyze, it'll review documents, it'll generate documents, things like that. And then we have agents as the last pillar. And agents are pretty unique in the sense that you can create an agent, customize it, and then put that forward facing on your website. Really, really useful in scenarios where you have either a hub that you want to put forward facing. So let's say that you have a housing hub and has general information about, let's say, New York State housing laws, or just what do you do if you got evicted? You can put documents in that hub and then deploy that on your website, and people can have a chat with an AI or just naturally search through the documents. And I'll get into some examples of that. So that's kind of the origin story of JTAI, and we're constantly updating this. Our sprints are very short, so we roll out features constantly. We have some pretty ambitious goals for this. In 2027, this will be a very different software. It'll still have the core pillars, but we're going to add more. I guess my sales wants to chat with myself. So it's very robust, and we're constantly updating it. We want this to be the best software that creates access to justice for everybody, and as a true valuable tool for the community as a whole. We wouldn't take this endeavor or invest the amount of time or money in developing something that we weren't passionate about. So this is something that we're definitely all in on. And I'm just going to pause there, maybe give you a background about who I am. I kind of skipped over that. I'm Brandon Slag. I'm head of product at JTAI. My co-creator or organizer here is Roman Slack. My background is in software, website development. I've been developing websites and web apps, and recently in the last couple of years, AI systems for the last 15, 20 years. And I love it. And there's all kinds. The road is bright. The future is very interesting. And if you ever see me at a conference, just corner me and start talking about AI, because I will talk forever about it. And I'm going to speak for Roman. He'll do the same. Okay, so let's get into the demo. Let's check out what we got. So I'm going to get into the 3 foundational models. I'm going to actually jump over to the platform view of JTAI. This is kind of the interface. The first thing that we did, and this was actually kind of a recent change, was that we originally started with ChatGPT as the base model for the entire system. And based on some of the recent ethical things that ChatGPT has done in the past month or two, we decided that it would be valuable to add the other 2 foundational models. So when you're interacting across all of your AI experiences within the system, you can actually switch at any time between these 3 models. You can have Claude, you can have ChatGPT, or Gemini, and they're all kind of slightly different. They all, like you've probably experienced, they have different personalities. I personally think ChatGPT is a little bit more of a people pleaser. We'll kind of go down a rabbit hole with you, telling you what you want to hear, versus Claude, which is pretty straightforward, and then you've got Gemini, which is very straightforward. So you can kind of get just a different flavor across your chatting experiences with these models. And they're all pretty similar as far as cost goes, so it doesn't really affect your token usage, which in this system we call AI credits. Just wanted to explain that because that was a recent kind of a rapid shift that we made based on some of the news that were coming out of those 3 foundational models. So now I'm going to get into agents. I'm going to deploy. Well, we kind of already deployed because it takes a little bit of time here to set these up, but we're looking at the agent screen. And there's a couple of different agents that we're looking at here. I'm going to zero in on the forms agent. And this is a kind of a micro agent that sits on your website, kind of sits as a little bubble on, you can set it as a bubble on your website, or you can use it as an inline chat experience for people. And what this housing helper does is you define your form questions. You can come through and customize what the AI is going to ask. So it's going to ask full name. It's a required field. It's going to ask zip code. It's if you give it the address, that's okay. It's not going to ask for it or have it as a requirement. It'll ask housing income, household size, what your issue is. It'll ask you to describe a little bit. But you're defining all of these. I could add in, ask about the news, or ask any type of question. So you can build these out to be for any format or any suite of issue that you want to tackle. And then the AI will have a conversation with the person, and I'll show that in a minute. You can also put in your own terms of service, your own privacy policy. This sits on your website, so sometimes that's valuable. The user has to agree to these before they start interacting with the AI agent. And then you can also define your credit limit. So if you're on a high traffic website, you can say, on a daily use, I only want to use 50,000 tokens. For our testing, we've only used 361. So it's actually pretty affordable. You're not going to blow up 50,000 tokens unless you've got several thousand people coming to your website, interacting and having chats. So in this case, the purpose of this housing helper agent is to have a conversation with the person, identify their need, and then direct them to a source or to a referral. And so what I've done is I've uploaded a document. I created this Minnesota housing referral directory. I'm from Minnesota, so I kind of understood some of the zip codes and stuff. So I put together this document, and what this document is it's just a list of legal aid providers in Minnesota. And I added a few things like this legal aid provider specializes in housing or family law or any number of other things, along with their phone number and their contact information. And what the AI does is this holds it in its memory. So as it's chatting with the person, it's also referencing this document. So at the end of the conversation, it'll look through the document and say, this is the best referral. And I'll give you an example of that. So I'm just going to have a really quick chat with my agent here. And I'm going to, this is like your little embed screens where you can test your agents. I'm just going to say I was evicted. And now it's going to start going through the list of questions. And I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I'm going to give it all of the information up front. Otherwise, it's going to go line by line and ask for the whole thing. But it's going to ask me what language. If I was to say I only speak Spanish, it will just switch over and start speaking Spanish. If German, it will speak almost any language. When you get into like Chinese and stuff, some of the dialect gets lost, but it's really good at this. And you can dial it in. So I'm just going to say my name is Brandon Slack. I was evicted, door locked, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I actually gave it two pieces of information. I gave it my name, and then I gave it my situation. And the AI is identifying that this is actually a pretty serious situation. Are you locked out of your house? It's following up with more information. So now it's going to continue on. It's identified that I'm okay. And in my system prompt, my instructions for how this was supposed to behave is that I told it to be hyper empathetical and to provide a little bit of information so that the person feels calm and safe. So in this case, I'm going to throw out a curveball. I don't know what my zip code is. I'm just going to say, I don't know. And I'm just going to give it the city that I live in, which is not in that list of questions. And in some online chats, if you've interacted with them, if you don't give it exactly that zip code, you can't move past the thing, move past those questions. So I'm just going to say, I don't know my zip code, but I live in Coon Rapids, which is in northern Minneapolis suburbs. And it'll just kind of identify, okay, I know where that is. And since it already has this larger language model knowledge base, it can identify the Coon Rapids sits in the zip code. So it doesn't actually sit and get hung up on this. It just kind of moves forward. I'm going to say no warning, no documents, no court dates. And then it's going to get into asking what my income is, and how many people live in my house. And since I know this, I'm just going to give it ahead of time so it gets to the very end. But I have 3 kids, and I make $1,500 a month. And you can see that it's tracking the progress through the questions at the top here with this little bar. So it's actually identified that it has all the information that it needs, and it's going to provide a referral. And it's going to refer out to one of the organizations that were in the list of that PDF document that I gave it prior. And then I get, as the user, I can interact and I can print or copy the summary or email it to the person. Now this is a pretty, zeroed in use case, and this is just for housing, but you could do this for a variety of different things. It's really pliable because you can set the questions and you can set the referral documents. It doesn't have to be, this could be a tax helper for doing taxes. Have a list of questions and then have a source document that it refers to in order to stay on track. And then as the builder of this agent, you can come over and edit your layouts. You can do a bubble, you can change your colors, enable disclosures. You can even custom CSS, change all the different things in here to make it look like your website. And I'm just going to take the code and I'm going to put this on my website. So I've got this is the JTAI website, and I'm going to just embed the code right into the website. And now it's live on our website, and anybody can begin using and chatting with us. I didn't publish this, so if you were to go to this page, you wouldn't be able to use it, but it's that easy. You copy and paste the code right into your website, and boom, you've got it. And it was really important to us to make this very user-friendly and very clean for low-code, no-code web admins. So this integrates well with Squarespace, WordPress, Drupal, all those different platforms, Joomla. It works really well. And this embedding agent is similar across all of the features or all of the systems inside JTAI, so it's all familiar. Just gonna go back out here real quick. And I'm gonna go back into the forms helper because I skipped over one little piece of information that's really important. A lot of people ask us, how do we zero in on how the AI behaves? And when you're building the agent, you actually can set your system prompt. So this is my rules and instructions of the personality of how it's supposed to behave, what it's supposed to do, the rules that it's supposed to follow. So for instance, if I wanted this chat agent to begin speaking in Spanish, I would actually put that as a rule in here. Start out by speaking Spanish and ask what language they want. You can also set your welcome message. And then you can also restrict its jurisdiction to New York, so it knows where it's behaving. Now, in this case, I have this set to New York, but I had Minnesota-based referral, or my document was Minnesota-based referral. The questions that were being asked were pretty pliable between the two states, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But you can strictly ground this in the knowledge base. So if I had this checked right here, it would only have been Minnesota-based referrals based on the criteria that I set in that PDF document that is right here. So we've given the builders of the agents a lot of latitude in being able to customize how it's going to behave. And then obviously you can choose which AI provider you want to have kind of as the brain behind it. So that was our new agent system. We have other agents that you can do. If I was to come in here and start building agents, there's a couple different ones you can do. You can do a forms agent, which is what I just demoed. You can do a classic agent, which is just an informational agent. It doesn't have a list of questions. You don't set a list of questions. You basically just set a system prompt and then it follows that system prompt. You can also give it documents to refer to. We have hub agents, and then we have a document generator. The document generator is still in development. It's in beta right now. It's a little bit quirky, still has a little bit of bugs to work out, but it does a pretty good job. And this will generate, deposit to ban letters, for instance. And I'll get into demoing that a little bit later, but we got a lot of other things to get to here. So the next item that we've worked on over the last couple quarters here is collaborative and community hubs. So collaborative hubs was a request from a client that said, we have a very large document resource. We have thousands of documents, and then we have partner organizations that also have their documents. And I guess maybe I should back up. If you're new to this, document hubs are where you basically can attach large document archives. You can attach it to your SharePoint and attach it to a SharePoint folder. So for instance, if I was going to do SharePoint here, give it a name, description, maybe a color, custom image, then I'd go to browse folders. And this is actually looking across our dev environment in SharePoint. And these are folders or document libraries, and I can select these and select which one I want to load in here. When I load a document archive in here, the AI will immediately identify that there's a PDF file or a Word document. It'll chunk that or read it, and then it'll put it into its memory or vector database. Some of the cool things it'll do is it will actually tag them automatically. It'll go through, if I was, for instance, going to this legal server support, it will go through and automatically read, summarize, and identify the category that the document needs to go into. So it read these two documents and identified that I needed to go into a data management tag. It automatically created the tag, summarized it, and then provided it as a PDF Word document that you could review. So we took this one step further. You have document hubs. You can interact with all of these documents. You can load, I think the largest one that we've interacted with was 7,000 documents, but it'll go up to 20,000. If you have 20,000 documents in your SharePoint, and you were to load that in here, or let's say your Google Drive or Dropbox, it'll just go through and chunk and read all of them, and then provide it as a knowledge base to you. But let's say that it's hard. You just don't know what the file is. Like I don't know what file I'm looking for in here, and you want to go in and search for it individually like this. That's great. But let's say that you just want to have a chat and just ask the AI, because the AI already knows all the documents. So I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to start a hub chat, and I'm actually just going to chat across all of my hubs, and I am going to, because I don't want to type all this out, I am going to ask it a question. And I'm just going to have it search across all of my hubs, all of my documents, because I just don't know where it is. And I'm a little bit lazy. So I'm going to put it on fast thinking, and I'm going to ask it a legal server question. And it's going to go through and look through all of these documents across all of the hubs. And it'll summarize all of them. And it's thinking. It'll take about maybe 20 seconds here to search all the documents, because a lot of our archives are pretty big. Found 8 results. It's reading the context from those. In a minute here, it'll actually produce a response, hopefully with legal server in mind. So I'm going to give it a minute here. So it identified that my question was related to legal server. It found documents related to that. And then it summarized what you're supposed to do for year-end legal server. And best of all, it actually just references the document sources that it found all that information in. So when you're interacting with this, you know that it's not actually it's not going to its larger language model. It's actually using your actual documents. This statement was referenced in this document, and you can go actually read that document and verify the source of it. Which really mitigates and builds trust in the system that it's not hallucinating. Because a lot of times you could have a conversation with the AI and it's actually pulling from its larger language model, and it might not have complete information on the legal server, so it'll just kind of hallucinate or provide its best answer, but it's not quite right. So this is an example of searching across all of, we call it OmniHub, all of your hubs if you don't know where it is. But let's say that I have this is a New York legal guide. I have a couple of different main categories. And let's say that I have a question about family law. And I'm going to ask it a fairly obscure question about marital laws. And this is actually a sentence buried in like the 30th page of some PDF document. And what it's going to do is it's going to look through all these documents in this hub. It's going to identify the best document, and then it's going to provide a result. And this might take a little bit longer because I have this on thinking, and thinking takes a little bit longer because it actually a little bit quicker there. But the best point of this is that it references the actual documents that it got the information from, so that you can go back and actually fact check it. You can use this information, and like it said, here's the spot in this document that it was referring to, and you can go in and look at it. So let's say that doc hubs, you make this really great hub and you want to put it on your website because this would be useful for your community. Same deal. You can come in here, go to embed, and you can actually embed this into your website as is. Here's a little preview of it. I'm going to just copy this code and jump over to the JTAI website. I'm going to copy this code in here, maybe put it right below it. And there it is, embedded in our website. You can then have chat interaction with it. You can navigate through all the files. You can restrict this. There's a lot of different ways that you can set these up to accommodate your community. So that was kind of the preface of where I was getting at, which was collaborative hubs and community hubs. You can create these hubs that are really useful for your community. But then let's say that you have two organizations that both have document archives or both have document sources that would be useful together. So what I can do is I can come in and I can actually create, I can turn this hub from well, it's right now a community hub, but I can turn this to a collaborative hub. And now it's a collaborative hub, and I can set my system prompt. Once it's set as a collaborative hub, I can invite other members to it. And for this example, I'm actually going to log out of the system. And I'm going to log in with my secondary user because I need a tenant ID. So now I'm logged in as my secondary user. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab my little tenant ID. I'm going to log out because browser caching and such doesn't make this easy for me to do all within the same browser. So I'm going to log back in, and I'm going to go back to that hub, your legal guide. And I'm going to invite that user. So if you have other organizations that are also using JTAI, you can invite them to collaborate inside this hub. And once that collaboration has been sent out, in that other user account that I previously logged in, there's a little message that says you've been invited to this hub to collaborate. And then you can upload documents and upload document sources, and you can co-manage or co-contribute to the same hub, which makes it really, really cool. I think it's a cool feature. I think that what it allows a lot of organizations to do is jointly manage their documents separately, but collectively within the same hub. The hub originator is still the admin. They can deny and remove any number of collaborators that are inside the hub, but potentially you could have 30 organizations all in the same hub contributing their own files to the same hub, and then deploy that on a website somewhere and have a giant hub that has all this information. Another cool feature is community hubs. So Rusha created this really cool legal server support hub, kind of interacted with this earlier, and she created it as a community hub. So if organization B was to be in the system, they'd be able to go to community, then browse all of the community hubs, and you'd be able to see that, oh, this is a legal server support. That'd be really cool. I'm going to subscribe to this. And once you subscribe to this, it shows up then in your community list. And then you as a subscriber can then start interacting with this hub. You can ask it questions, you can interact on the AI level. The tokens used when you're interacting with the chat in this is actually your own tokens. It doesn't come from the organization that published it, which is nice, so that they're not footing the bill. But we thought that this was an interesting feature because there's a lot of sharing that can happen in this. You can create a really cool hub that has some really useful information and then share it out to the community. And then anybody that uses JTAI or JTAI can start using that hub and even deploy it on their website if they want. So in the last 10 minutes, I'm going to kind of fly through items 5 and 6. We just got done with collaborative hubs and community hubs. Now we're going to get into QA monitoring and assessment. So one of the really important things that we identified fairly recently, because we've just been flying through this stuff, is QA monitoring. And quality assurance is a very important piece of this. We basically allow you to turn on QA monitoring. And what that does is that you then have an AI review all AI conversations that are happening. If there's a hub over here that's having a conversation and there's an agent over here, it will monitor those. And then it'll give a confidence rating on that conversation. So like, here's my recent conversation here. And it gives me a confidence score overall. And then it breaks it down into, was it providing misinformation? Was it overconfident? And the reason we provide this is that you can then go back to the system prompts for these chats, these hub agents, and these chat agents, and you can refine the system prompt. You can say things like, only follow New York state law and disregard, or only follow, only respond in Spanish if XYZ is applicable. It really gives you visibility into what the interactions of the AI are with your community members and also internally. So yeah, this does, when you have this on, we only caveat that when you have this turned on, it is using your AI tokens. So there is a possibility that you're basically doubling your AI tokens usage because everything's being reviewed. So this isn't really an always on thing. We would recommend turning this on maybe for like a couple weeks or a week, monitor it, then turn it back off, and then turn it on and off as you check in. This is a constant improvement feature. It's something that kind of is meant to strengthen the argument that you have a grasp on what your AIs are doing. It certainly has helped us. It's been enlightening in a lot of cases. This one, it gauged that it was giving a 95% confidence score of legal advice, which is a no-no, especially for a front-facing embedded hub. But in most cases, the reason why it was doing that was because it probably doesn't have a system prompt. We haven't configured it fully yet. So there's lots of ways to mitigate the risk here, and lots of ways to make this really useful for your organization as you're monitoring. And we also have other things like you can look at your AI insights, you can look at overall usage, you can see what documents are being most interacted with across all of your hubs, common questions, identify patterns, lots of different things, within the system and the analytics system that can be really useful for your organization. All right, so we've got item 6 here, which is document creation and editing. So in the last 6 minutes before we switch it over to QA, I'm going to give you a demo of our chat intelligence feature. So if I'm just going to get to a neutral page here. I'm in the document hubs, and one of the cool features of JTAI is that there's actually several different types of chats. I've been showing you chatting with a hub, which is really just locked to your document sources. It doesn't go outside of your document sources. It doesn't go to its larger language model and create inference or try to fill the gaps if you have a vague prompt. But we did have an ask from a client of, it'd be really nice to have an AI chat, to have, basically a full version of, Claude or ChatGPT. And there's a couple of advantages to this. One, you're interacting within our system, and all of your API calls and all of the knowledge, or really not knowledge, but everything that you interact with, and I don't want to get too technical into this, but everything that you interact with in our platform is encrypted and sent as a token to the foundational platform. So as an example, if I have a chat with ChatGPT, for instance, inside the system, it encrypts my tokens and sends it to the ChatGPT API. They don't read any of that. They actually can't read it. They can see the log that the chat happened, but they can't read what's inside the chat. Now, if you take that and you actually do the exact same thing, but you do it within ChatGPT's website, there's a high likelihood that they actually can see your session. They can see what you chatted about, and they can, in the future, if they wanted, they could change their privacy rules, and all that data is there, and they can start training on it. So interacting with our system In this way, you're still interacting with the foundational model, but it's kind of lobotomized from they can't see any of it because it's all encrypted back and forth. So let's say that you have 20 licenses on ChatGPT. This is a full version of ChatGPT or Claude, not Claude Desktop. I love Claude Desktop, but it doesn't do co-work. It doesn't do anything like that. But it does do document analyzing really, really well. And that's what I'm going to show you here. So I'm actually going to give it a file here. Let's give it a minute. Go to my desktop. So this is just like a case. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know what this case is about. So I'm just gonna, ask it to. I'll actually see what I got as far as a prompt goes. One second, let me copy and paste this in. I'm just going to make an analysis of this document, and then I wanted to create a PDF file of that analysis. So I currently am using Claude, so it's going to spin up Claude Opus. And this is still in beta. The document generation is still in beta, but it will basically read the document, and my instructions are explain why this matters, and then keep it short. And then it created this document for me, and it's identifying all the different rules, the court rulings, why it would be important to me. It kind of skipped over the fact of making it short, but it's pretty good. And then if I wanted to follow up with other things like change the title or change paragraph 2 to flip things around, you can talk to it and tell it to do those things. But let's say that this is just good as is, and I can just download this as a PDF file. And this is a really narrow use case, but you can give it multiple documents if you wanted. You could give it 2 or 3 documents and have it analyze those and explain why it mattered. So it's a pretty advanced system that's only getting better. We've, I think, rolled this out a month ago, and on the roadmap for development on this, we have lots and lots of new features, things that will, we hope, give platforms like Harvey AI a run for its money at a reasonable cost. I think Harvey is in over several $100s per user seat, which is a lot. Anyways, we made this feature. Feel free to play with it. You can do a free trial of the system and get access today, and go on and interact with this and play with it. Please give us feedback. We want to know how it's working. We want to make this better. It's really important to us that this is useful for people. And so no amount of, there isn't too much feedback, which goes all into a bucket and we read every single one. So yeah, that is our features that we have been working tirelessly on. And I'm going to open it up to questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to either chat them or put them into the question area. Just going to give it a few minutes here if anybody does, and then I'm happy to go back and show other features or show different use cases if there are any. All right, so we've got a couple. All right, how does confidentiality work across these different tools? I think I touched on it a little bit. This entire system is closed to, as far as confidentiality goes. We don't share or store any of your information. The information that gets stored is your documents get chunked into a vector database, which is like just numbers, and then you are using the hub to interact with those directly. So we aren't in the loop there, and we don't store your data. We don't analyze your data. The QA feature that I showed you earlier, that is entirely closed to you. We don't go in and review those. privacy was very important to us in this, so there's no storage in analyzing, there's no training on your data, because all that we're really using are the foundational models as tools. So we're not actually, and this is a reg system, so it's not being trained on any of your stuff, which is super, super important to us because we wouldn't want that done to us. How can we access the beta doc feature? So if you wanted to get to the view that I was at, there's actually two ways. One is you can just go to new chat, new agent chat here, which is AI chat. And then that brings it to this screen. And you can do a document fill out, which is still very much beta. You can basically give it a document, any type of document that has form that needs to be filled out. It'll identify all the different form fields, and then the AI will have a chat with you and fill it out at the same time. If you wanted to do similar to what I just showed, you just interact with it this way. You come here, click that, upload your document, and then ask it what you want it to do. And then there's also the agent chat, which you could create a little agent like a deposit, this little deposit helper chat. And this chat is in beta. Looks like there's 5 sessions that we've done. So you can get to that from the agents screen. All right, another question. So the metering that we have set up, yeah, great question. We have a system here for usage. So you can come in and look at your tokens and how they've been used over time, how much you have left, what your total amount is. You can also come in and set usage for each user. So here's everybody that we have in our tenant, and each person right now gets 10,000 tokens. But you can, as an admin, come in and adjust this. So like Roman down here has 100,000 tokens. I'm almost at my limit. I have 10,000 tokens. But you can come in out of your allotment because it all goes into one bucket. So I think we have 20 users, so we have like close to 800,000 tokens. So if you had a power user, for instance, that keeps on burning up their 10,000 tokens in a month, you could actually give them 50. And maybe a person who doesn't use it as much would have 5. So you can adjust those. We've also integrated this type of feature into everything else. So you can come in and meter your agents. You can set 8 credits per day for your agents. And then you can also do the same for your hubs. Integration with legal server. Yes, integration for legal server is actually the very next thing on our list of features that we're deploying. We actually have a prototype of that in our dev environment. But when you come in, and I'll show you right here, you can come in and add your connections or your integrations. Here's my integration connection for SharePoint, Google Drive, Dropbox. There'll be another one here for legal server. And then you'll be able to pick what do you want it to do. So do you want it to focus on cases? Do you want to focus on intake? And then once legal server is connected to your hub, you could create a hub, for instance, that's connected to legal server, and you'd see a little legal server icon here. And then you'd be able to make a hub that's all about your cases, for instance. And then you could be able to ask questions back and forth. So yes, integration is coming. I would say we won't roll that out until probably June, early June, and then it will be out of beta by the end of June. Encryption aspect. There's nothing stored. So there are things, okay. I don't know, Roman, if you want to jump in here and explain this a little bit, because I don't want to botch it. But yeah, go ahead, Roman.
Sure. Yeah, and hello everyone. I don't have my camera on, but I'm Roman Slack, the lead developer for JTAI. And so I handle all the security and a lot of the compliance. So we are currently in the process of SOC 2 compliance. And so what that means is our data will be fully vetted by a third party and secured. Right now, however, we store everything on what's called Google Cloud. And so these services are already SOC 2 verified and are the maximum level of security and redundancy. As far as encryption, we encrypt everything. We encrypt everything in transit, and then also while it's stored on our servers. What this means is that if someone were to get into our system and try to look at the database, this would all be encrypted. Not only that, but we also have what's called row-level security, which essentially means if one tenant is compromised because someone leaks their password, it's impossible for a hacker to get to these other, tenants. So we take security extremely seriously, and it's an active, ongoing thing where we just keep on making it better and better. So yeah, and feel free to ask any other questions on it. I can also go into more detail through email and etc.
Thanks, Robin. All right. So that's the question is can this be used to at least begin an intake, determine eligibility, and create an intake record in Salesforce or Justice Server? So that's actually it's actually a really good question, and we are actually developing an intake software that does exactly that in a more robust and feature-rich way. We have discussed expanding these agents to be able to do that. It just gets really finicky. For instance, in the forms agent, being able to accommodate all the different softwares that are out there. So I would say Legal Server will be the first one that we integrate. So when you create this form helper, this housing helper, for instance, there'll be an integration option in here where you can say, do you want this instead of what it currently does, which is it puts it in an agent inbox, and you can see that the chat that happened and all the information is kind of summarized, what the issue is and stuff. So once we have Legal Server integrated in this, there'll be an option to link to Legal Server this chat agent, and then this record would go right into Legal Server. That's the plan. Once we have Legal Server done, then we'll go to Justice Server, but we don't have any. That's not going to be until probably later on this year at the earliest. I got to say that working with some of these APIs for, let's say, Legal Server or even Justice Server is really complicated, and there's some limitations on how we can interact. There's also a cost piece of it. In order to connect to Legal Server's API, depending on how we're connecting, there is a cost. If you use the premium API, I think it's like $200 a month versus the free API. If we use the free API and we connect to that, it ends up not giving us the type of data that we want, and then you have restrictions on how fast you can push data to their servers. So there's lots of integration hurdles, but we will hope to have a lot of those figured out by the end of June. And then we'll at least have a proof of concept, and then we can maybe share more about what our roadmap is for that. You're not the first person to ask that, so we do know that it's a need. But I would say maybe I'll send out an email to everybody on this for our intake system that we're developing. That might actually be a better solution, a more robust solution. So more to come on that. I just can't talk a lot about it in general. Any other questions? All right. Well, we actually finished ahead of time. We have 10 minutes to spare, which I'm happy to give the 10 minutes back because everybody can get a cup of coffee or go have a break before their other meetings. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining. This is a passion of mine. It's a passion for Roman. It's a passion for JTAI. And we feel honored that you guys would participate in a webinar like this and that you have interest in this. And we really want to make this better. So if you have suggestions or if you have items that you would like to see possibly developed, we're all ears.